What's going on, everybody? Mortem here. This time I wanted to bring to you guys one of the biggest things you can do for yourself in terms of almost immediately getting better at CRPGs or just RPGs in general that allow you to do this, and that is simply to embrace summoning. So summoning is almost always overpowered in every RPG that it is in, but especially things like CRPGs and probably none more so than turn-based. Now, I actually made a video specifically about getting better at turn-based games, and I do talk about this a decent amount in that video, as well as other things, mind you. As the title probably told you, summoning is very overpowered in most games. And ultimately, especially for RPGs, this comes down to a term called the action economy. So while in turn-based games, this is very easily quantified because it's quite literally the number of turns you get, in real-time with pause, it's still in effect, though it's a little more ambiguous because everyone's moving all at the same time. But even with real-time with pause, obviously, the more people you have doing things, the better off you're going to be, which is really what summoning is all about and honestly why it tends to be so overpowered. Because if you're controlling a character, that if that person dies, it will immediately decrease your effectiveness or possibly just give you a game over. Putting another entity into the battle itself that can absorb hits as well as hit other things for you has literally just doubled your action economy. Plus, potentially, take an action economy away from enemies by using it as a big target dummy, basically. Now, depending on the strength of summoning, as well as limits on what you can summon and things like that, it can have varying degrees of effectiveness. But that said, summoning builds in general are almost always very strong. And that is why in basically every CRPG, RPG that I play, I always keep someone that has a lot of summons in their back pocket, because especially in battles where you're able to actually summon before the battles actually start, then you can start that battle with just waves of summons, and honestly end fights before they even start in a lot of cases. Now, in addition to the obvious points of the action economy and just having more options for attacking and tanking damage, a lot of games aren't really balanced around you abusing this, for instance. They might expect you to have like one or two characters that use it in general. For instance, if you were to play DOS 2 with literally 4 characters that can all summon something, you're effectively playing the game with 8 characters because summoning in that game is basically like summoning another player character. So having 4 characters with summoning is basically literally just giving yourself 8 characters. And obviously, the game isn't really balanced around someone potentially running 4 summoners despite it being very effective. Just like CRPGs and things might expect you to use 1, but it hardly expects you to dedicate, say, 2 people to doing nothing but summoning, which will allow you to flood the battlefield, and at the end of the day, a lot of those combat encounters are balanced around you having less people than the enemy does, so you immediately having either the same or just straight up more allies to do battle with almost immediately puts you in a position of strength. That might seem like a simple enough concept to veterans, because honestly, it's just a very effective tactic. However, a lot of times I find that new players especially can overlook that type of stuff, and it's certainly not the only way to play the game, because, at the end of the day, if you don't want to run that summoner fantasy, then you might just not ever want to play a summoner. My general advice is this: in situations where it's possible, always try to run 1 or 2 summoners that are almost dedicated to summoning as much as they can. Again, this is going to vary game by game, but usually, especially in fantasy stuff, there is something to this effect. Even using Wasteland 3 as an option, you can summon mechanical robots with one of the skills, and there's no real limit on how many you can have out, which makes it immediately abusable even on the higher difficulties. But there you go, guys, just kind of something I personally find very overpowered in CRPGs, as well as something that can honestly help you out if you're having a lot of trouble. It is a tactic I use on the higher difficulties of video games all the time. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below, in addition to liking and subscribing, of course. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.